let's get to the big topic in the NBA, Adam. You were out front on this stuff, the Harden stuff, about kind of what his preferences were in terms of where he wanted to go if things broke down with the Rockets. I was then told and reported it here that basically the only way that James Harden was going to get his way out of Houston was if he out Jimmy for what Jimmy did in Minnesota. It appears that Harden is out Jimmying Jimmy. He's basically hanging out at strip clubs during COVID, it appears, spending a whole lot of money, not reporting to camp for his new coach, Steven Silas. What is going on with James Harden? And the second question I'm going to ask, because this is a Heat pod, but what's going on with James Harden?
I think the way to get a star player to get traded is to get the team's fans turned against you. And I think that's exactly what James Harden is doing with Rockets fans. And I think eventually it's going to work in his favor. And the thing that James Harden is really good at is doing something and not getting the heat for it that he should, right? We've talked the last few years about how he's basically run out every single superstar that's come to town. And somehow he has gotten away from all the heat from doing so. So I think this is the first time where people are realizing that it might be James Harden who's keeping the Rockets from actually doing something pretty important. And should the Heat actually make this trade, my answer to that is basically, we'll know in 2 weeks, right? And that's when Giannis will be able to sign his extension, or that's the deadline for Giannis to sign his extension. And I think if Giannis signs on the dotted line, I think it's a pretty real chance that we'll see some Heat James Harden rumors really start to pop up. But if Giannis doesn't sign, it'll be tough to imagine a world where they actually go for it.
All right, let's get to it, Alex. This James Harden thing, you mentioned Giannis, and that was going to be my next place I'm going to go because we have to discuss that. Because some things are supposed to have happened that have not happened now. And I think we started to take him for granted here on the podcast. Alex, I mean, if you're the Houston Rockets right now, do you ship him out or do you keep him there?
Honestly, it's kind of a tough question. It seems like traditionally you would think that the Rockets have all the leverage here since Harden is still signed there long-term, right? Like, I don't think his contract is going to be up within the next year or two. And so obviously, we've seen an NBA thing shift where like guys would start asking out a year ahead. You saw Kyrie get out of his contract 2 years ahead. I think Anthony Davis. No, I'm sorry, I have that wrong. But in general, I think that's kind of where it gets tough. I think Harden is, though, one of those guys where, he's one of those faces of the league where maybe he can just create the leverage himself. And I think that's kind of what Adam's saying there. He's creating the leverage by making this a public thing, by making this a front-facing thing, and kind of putting the pressure on the Rockets to not look like clowns and kind of do something about it. Where, like, meanwhile, his teammates are in training camp preparing for like preseason games, and the whole offense runs around him. Like, the whole game plan is around him. So like, it's like, how do they practice? Do they just have everybody standing in spot ups like when like the trainers are giving out passes? Like, I don't even this whole thing is a mess. So I think the best idea is just for them to try to get as much value as they could. I just don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon because how much money and he makes the franchise, and he's keeping them relevant single-handedly.
Well, go ahead, Greg.
No, I was just going to say, Alex mentioned the word pressure, and Zach Lowe said today that he heard from 3 or 4 people out of the blue who don't work for the Rockets, but they work for the other 29 teams, saying that the league has to step in and do something about this, that it's not okay. I don't know what that would entail, but all of this feels like there's going to be a chance that James Harden is going to be available at a discount of some sort. I don't know what that exactly will look like. And it looks like, I don't know that they're going to be able to wait 2 weeks. That's the other part of this, that as this stuff accelerates and gets louder and gets messier, I don't know that they can necessarily wait. So it'll be interesting to see what comes next.
But Greg, in 2 weeks, a whole new market for James Harden opens up potentially. And I think the Rockets would be better served to wait for the Giannis domino to fall. And then potentially, if he does sign that extension, you have 3 or 4 more bidders for James Harden. So I think it'd be better for them to wait.
Yeah, no, you could be right. I mean, it's just a matter if their hand gets forced, if there's, a deal to be made.
All right, so let's get to the next part of this, because I do want to get into, again, what the Heat would potentially give up for Harden, a conversation that I know we've had before, but we should reprise it. But another conversation we've had before is Giannis. And I think, it was about a week ago or a little bit more than that we did a podcast basically giving up on the whole Giannis stream, because Jackie McMullen, someone who I greatly respect, who typically has good information, but is not an information person. She is mostly, I mean, she's a columnist, she's a biographer. She has been in the game for a very long time. She's excellent at what she does, but she's not someone who typically breaks a lot of news outside of the Celtics. She does break some news with the Celtics. She obviously has been based up in Boston, worked at the Globe for a long time before she went to ESPN. But she essentially reported that she was hearing that Giannis was going to sign the Supermax. And then there were other reports out of those in the Wisconsin area, roughly the same thing. And then you had this thing come out where Chris Middleton is basically saying that he's buying Giannis a pen so that he can go sign. So it certainly didn't seem like a given. And here's my question. I'll go to you first on this, Adam. If Giannis is going to sign the Supermax, he knows where it is. He knows how much it is, right? Nothing is changing between now and 2 weeks from now. Why has he not signed the damn thing yet?
Well, I'll say this. From what I heard about a week ago from someone close to the Bucks, is that they were confident that he was going to sign, but they didn't actually know if he was going to sign. Like, they didn't have any hints suggesting that he was actually going to sign. And the thing about his teammates giving him pens, I still think that's kind of them convincing Giannis to try to stay. Like, that wasn't a foregone conclusion that he was actually staying. So I think it's still very much in the air and that he hasn't really decided, unless he's waiting till the last minute to make this decision, because it's a big decision for him. He's basically deciding where he wants to spend the rest of his prime. And I mean, you can't blame him from wanting to wait as long as possible before making that decision.
I don't think he's signing it.
Yeah, right. I mean, that Adam, I understand. I can't blame him, but he's got the whole damn city of Milwaukee, right? And the whole NBA on hold. He's not that kind of person. I mean, from everything we know of him, it's been sitting there. The numbers have not changed. Milwaukee cannot do anything between now and the start of the season to change the complexion of their roster. It's already done. They spent the money. They got Drew. They didn't get Bogdanovich. Then they added a bunch of pieces who I know Alex likes, and we've talked about them. Some of the bench pieces that don't get as much much talked about. But it's done. Like, this is the team. Like, this team is coming down here to play against the Heat twice in the first 2 weeks of the season. I mean, he's not a tease. Like, right. I don't. I mean,
I've talked about it. I think it's in his best interest not to sign it, just to hold that pressure and that just have that hold over the Bucks front office. And I talked about it before. Kevin Durant tore his Achilles and he got a max contract. So if something happened to Giannis, a catastrophic injury, he knows that max is still going to be there regardless. So it's not an insurance policy. So I think it'd be better for him not to sign it. But he's a loyal guy, and we know he's loyal. So that could drive him into signing it just because he wants to be there.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, Alex, at this point, I mean, should we reprise this conversation? We talked about holding off for Giannis, and then all kind of agreed, well, you can't hold off for Giannis because Giannis is signing the Supermax. But if he doesn't sign it in 2 weeks, if it becomes a prove-it year for this new core with Drew Holiday and I guess DJ Augustine and some of the other pieces that they added, like, I mean, if Giannis doesn't sign it, do you even make a play for James Harden? You just wait.
If he doesn't sign it, I think it's really hard to make a play for James Harden. I think it's really hard to do it if, after all this time and all the stuff about how loyal he is and them wanting to upgrade, they did upgrade, right? Obviously, I think we all agree that they could have done more and that they didn't necessarily solve their problems. They upgraded. Like you guys said, he knows everything about Milwaukee. He knows about what they have to offer. Like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's going to sign it. Maybe Adam's right that he's just waiting till the last second because it's an important decision. But to the point of waiting last second, maybe that's why he doesn't sign it, because he wants to give the Bucks an actual year of seeing how this team plays out that he's kind of locked into now before actually signing it. And I think that's kind of what makes the most sense. And everything you guys said too, that I do think he'll still get 100% of the same money if something were to happen to him from now until next offseason. So it does kind of stand to reason that he's just going to hold off until the offseason and see what this team looks like. And I think as a result of that, maybe Miami doesn't go that hard for Harden. And I didn't do that on purpose, but but that's kind of where I am right now.
But I mean, this is going to be fascinating, though, because if Giannis doesn't sign and Harden has so much noise surrounding him, and the league is watching how Houston treats a star player on his way out, because obviously everyone's keeping receipts on that. It'll be interesting to see Riley navigate this situation, because the Riley move is to go all in for one of those two guys, and kind of consolidate your assets and have 3 stars and go all in for a superstar now. And Hero is that blue chip young talent that gets you in the conversation for any of these guys. I think that's the jumping off point. So it's going to be super interesting to see how Riley navigates that landscape.
Yeah.
And one more thing to add to that, Greg, if you don't hear a single peep out of Miami in regards to James Harden, a top 3 player in the NBA, that means they know something that no one else knows about Giannis.
Mm-hmm. But haven't they known it? Like, I feel like they've known it, and then we all changed course because of this conversation. Again, Jackie McMullen and a couple sources out of Wisconsin. But no Mark Stein, no Woj. Again, sources can come from anywhere. I've always say that. But no Shams. I mean, there's been none of the others have said Giannis is signing this thing. Like, it was Jackie, and Jackie's great. Jackie's been on before this was 5 on the Floor when it was a 5 Reasons pod. She's tremendous. But it was a little weird that it emanated out of somebody who typically reports news on the Celtics. Like, the Celtics are not in play for Giannis. So I think we might have, just like we might have jumped the gun before, and we spent an entire podcast apologizing for that. Like, I feel like we might have jumped the gun again. Like, maybe he's not leaving. And here's the thing, and final thing on this, okay? And I know I used to say that all the time, like Alex used to say at the end of the day before we coached him out of it. I don't think you said it one time this entire podcast.
That's 2 in a row.
Let's do it. Well, you were going to get through it. You'll do it now, for sure. But here's the thing about it. He should make this a prove it year. He should. Like, he should make the Bucks prove it to him, right? Before he's going to commit long term. And that's one of the reasons why I thought, if you were him, why not sign a 1-and-1? Like, we haven't talked about that, but and if you sign a 1-and-1, which is something that LeBron has done many times throughout the years before he signed the big deal with the Lakers, and then again has decided to just go out until whenever it is that his son can become available for the draft. If he signs a 1-and-1, if you're the Heat, do you wait again? Like, if he extends for 1 year beyond that, do we push this thing back into 22? Greg, you're shaking your head because I can see you don't, right?
Well, it all depends on the development of the young guys. I feel like if everybody continues to take leaps, maybe you have the luxury of kind of playing it safe and being patient. But I would expect them to kind of start exploring other avenues. I think Bradley Beal's going to obviously that's going to get louder as the time goes on, when he only has 1 year left before he can, exercise a player option. So I don't know. I don't see them necessarily waiting around. But if they do, or if they're awarded the ability to wait and kind of see how that plays out, that means that you're getting leaps from your young guys in ways that is allowing for you to be patient. And that's a good thing. It's a good problem to have.
All right. Final thing here. You know what? We're keeping you around for another couple of minutes. Okay. I got one more question to ask you. It's related to Harden. This is the kind of, we were talking about how Clutch Corner would be 15 minutes. And I know there's absolutely no chance of that. Do you need a realtor who will treat you as a valued client and not just another commission? Let me recommend you consult Eric Brown at 5reasonsrealtor.com, the official realtor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Eric is a real estate professional with several years of experience representing celebrities, executives, and professional athletes, as well as first-time home buyers. With a Wharton School business education, he's uniquely qualified at identifying property value, negotiating on your behalf, and providing an unmatched level of service. If you're considering selling or buying a home in South Florida, or just want to know what your property is worth in this strong real estate market, contact Eric at 305-967-9089. That's 305-967-9089, or go to 5reasonsrealtor.com. If he can't help you, he'll recommend someone who can. How about that? Find out what his specialized professional business approach can do for you today. Again, that's Eric Brown. This is the easiest website to find. Spell it out. 5reasonsrealtor.com, the official realtor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. All right, last question. I know we addressed this on a previous stream. I'll go to all of you guys for this, your own answers on this. The behavior that James Harden has been exhibiting. I know we talked about this with Jimmy Butler, and there was some question about whether he could conform, but Jimmy has proven he is all about winning. Does the way that James Harden is acting to get his way out of Houston discourage you in any way from making a trade for him? Alex?
A little bit. I can't lie. It's kind of an ugly look. And you know me, I've been kind of all in on that idea. And not that, I would just kind of do whatever to get him. But I just think that's the type of guy that you definitely trade for. I think the fit stuff has been overblown. But outside of the basketball stuff, I definitely think it's an ugly look. And not necessarily the whole aspect of him trying to make a stink to get out of Houston, because I absolutely understand why he would do that. More so than that, it's just kind of the way that he's going about it, where it's just like, I don't really care about COVID. I'm just going to be out here in the strip clubs and kind of be, like he knows he's going to get snapped and he's going to be on Instagram and Snapchat and people are going to, okay, look, Harden's in the club. And yes, he could do whatever he wants with his money. It's his life. And so I'm not going to be down on him for that. But it's just not a great look, man. Like, you're one of the biggest superstars in the league. And, like there are no masks being worn in those videos, man. I just don't love that look. And other than that, like, I don't really care about the stink that he's making up over there. I think that's kind of a shit show. Everything's obviously, it's a sinking ship going on in Houston. It's just a matter of when. But really, the pandemic stuff bothers me more.
It's the COVID violations that bother you. It's
not.
The other stuff
is not great either. But I think the COVID stuff bothers me more.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, when he wore a mask, he pissed people off with the mask he wore. If you remember, right? If you remember that during the bubble. I mean, Greg, does it bother you?
The efficiency stuff in playoff games bothers me more. If I had to point to something to be bothered at, but ultimately I would say this. They've traded for disgruntled players in the past, and we don't need to outline all those, but there were stuff that happened behind the scenes with Alonzo Mourning in Charlotte that maybe was underreported. There was stuff that happened in LA with Shaquille that maybe was underreported. So I have no doubt that they can repair that kind of stuff. And this is where I land on this. And this is the coolest thing about following the Miami Heat at this juncture of the organization's timeline. If they do make a trade for James Harden, that means that Eric Spoelstra, Bam Adebayo, and Jimmy Butler all signed off on it. And you know what? If they sign off on it, I sign off on it. And that's it.
Adam, you've been pretty strong on this. You want him, right?
I don't care what he does. I'm trading everything that they have to get James Harden on this roster. Everything.
Well,
I'm
making but Jimmy and Bam, right? Okay.
Yeah, everything but Jimmy and Bam. I'm making a deal with the Thunder to unlock those other two picks, and I'm sending those over to Houston as well. And you try and you hold on to Duncan Robinson to dear life. But if that's the deal breaker, you do it, and you don't even check with the other guys. You just do it. He doesn't want to be there. He already said, I don't want to be in Houston. Why are you going to force him to go to the training camp and just have an awkward, altercation potentially with his teammates?
But Adam, they gave him everything. But Adam, this is what I don't understand. They catered to him in every conceivable way. D'Antoni changed his entire coaching style for him. Morey tried to build around him. They tried Dwight Howard. They tried Chris Paul. They even brought back Russell Westbrook, who he played with before. Is this guy ever going? I mean, this is not. It's not the same as Jimmy, who's been playing with a bunch of dogs, okay, who didn't play up to his level or work as hard as him. This is different, man. Russ is the worker, not Harden. I mean, Russ has his right, or am I wrong about that?
Ethan, you said they catered to him to anything he wanted. That's why players aren't good GMs. They're not hired to become general managers of teams while they're playing. There's too much of an emotional aspect to it. GMs are supposed to make the decisions for the teams, not the players. And that's why all those relationships were spoiled. They listened to what James Harden wanted and only James Harden. And that's why they're worse off because of it.
All right. We don't agree on this, but that's good. That's why you come to us. All right. So check out Adam's new show, Clutch Corner. Again, it's going to debut on the YouTube channel next Tuesday. We'll bring pieces of it on here. Adam's going to be appearing on 5 on the Floor more going forward as well. Check out Brady Hawk 305 and Tropical Blanket for the Zoom calls. There's more Zoom calls tomorrow with players from the Miami Heat as well as Eric Spoelstra. And we're coming up on a preseason game soon. And obviously the season opens in Orlando on the 23rd.